I don't think I realized the amount of mental toll it takes on me to open my eyes first thing in the morning and just see all my belongings staring at me.
Welcome back to Experts About Nothing. Here we are.
Welcome back.
As you can see, wearing the same beautiful outfits as the last one. It's giving pre-recorded session.
It's giving habit stacking.
Before we get into our topic for today, which sneak peek it is, the impact of environment.
The impact of environment.
Yes, but we'll keep you wondering what that even means because we have to kind of dissect that ourselves.
It's elusive.
But before we get into that, so please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, as Priya likes to call it.
Music specifically.
And wherever you listen to pods. But also check out our Instagram at Experts About Nothing and our TikTok at Experts About Nothing. We have some very unique stuff going on over there. But yeah, we're really excited to grow our community. And honestly, we have been seeing a lot of support from you guys this year and this last year. So hope to keep growing it this year. Woo!
That's the goal. Okay, so today, impact of environments. We just really wanted to break down what types of environments make us thrive and kind of are like experience living in different environments and how now we're kind of at like this pivotal moment in our adult lives where we have a lot of freedom and change happening this year in our environments, and we get to actually actively like curate a space for us, both, you know, the little things like your apartment, your room, your setup, as well as the big things like location and things tying you to a specific place. We have a lot of flexibility in that this year, and we're making a lot of choices and changes. And we wanted to talk through our thought process of all of that.
We wanted to start off with really what does our current environment look like, and how have we been given the flexibility now to choose our environments versus in the past? I was thinking about this earlier today, and I thought about how basically we really haven't had a choice in our environment, like where we're living. All of that was basically dictated by our families, and like wherever you grew up is kind of where you grew up, where you went to school, all of that. We just have to acclimate to wherever we are. Then as we go to college, you have a roommate, you might have homemates. Like you're put in a scenario where you are trying to make friends, trying to meet people. But then after you move out of college, I feel like my environment was the last thing I was thinking about. Like we were mainly guided by our jobs, and like wherever our jobs were located, we would go. We were trying to have roommates to make things more affordable. And like that was our main focus, was like getting settled into this new independent lifestyle that we're all starting. But now as like mid to late 20-year-olds, I feel like we have so much more jurisdiction on like not only where we're living, but like the space inside. So both from a high level point of view and a low level point of view, we have so much more control. I more prioritize my environment now when I'm thinking about my future. It comes with the confidence that you have as you grow up, as you build your career, as you can make more choices for your life. That's kind of been weighing heavy on us because we're at this pivotal point in our youth and in our growth where we're like, okay, now we might have the option to live alone, to explore different areas. And like, how are we going to approach that? And how does that impact us as people? And like, how does that impact our growth? So yeah, we're just going to dive into that. But it's interesting how like historically we've just never prioritized it. And then all of a sudden you're like in the thick of your 20s and you're like, wait, I actually really care. It's like the key factor in my lifestyle and like how I like find joy in a way.
Yeah, I think you only realize the, I guess, impact of your space and of your environment when you experience living in an environment that is not optimal for you. That's absolutely been my experience. Like Deeksha mentioned, like you're growing up and most of your environment's curated by your family. Then I think like in your early 20s and late teens, like it's mostly curated by your education and your job. Like that's like the top priority universally for most people. And then you hit a point, I think, like moving to New York or moving to Ohio for you, that's fully driven by a job and you're just trying to make money and you're just trying to like get credibility in your careers. And for some people that takes way longer, like people in medicine, people in grad school, like years of your life, your location, your experience, your environment is fully dictated by your career and like your educational path. And then I think once you hit a point where you're in more of a routine in your life, that's when you even have almost like the bandwidth to be like the freedom. Freedom both like physically and most importantly probably financially, to be like, hey, now I can start to think about the little things that are like, do I like this? Do I not like this? Where do I want to live? What does my space look like? What are the things that I prioritize? My experience has been like, it's a really confusing process to figure out what you actually want.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people telling you what you should be prioritizing and like what you should want. In your 20s, everyone's like, you should be in a city. Like that's the, I don't know. Like that's the dream. That's the dream.
That's like top.
That's what's marketed to you. That's what you see on the TV shows. Everyone's in their 20s. They're in New York. They're in Chicago, LA, whatever. Like, you know, you're in some urban environment. That's truly what fueled like so much of what I wanted. Like it was like, oh, I need to be in a city, ideally New York City, and I need to have a good job here. And like, those were the only two things I cared about. And it was fully like, I didn't know if I was going to like this environment. I didn't grow up in a city.
Yeah.
I didn't live in an apartment for that long. Like I had space, I had a car. All of those things were the environment I curated. Even our college experience, we were in like a small college town.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a city environment. You're just kind of like thrust into something based off of what other people are telling you is like the ideal for what you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Only being here at this point for almost like 5 years, am I like thinking more critically about my environment. I think it literally took me up until this year to be like, what is my life? You know, like what is my day to day? How am I getting groceries? How much sunlight do I see in the day? Just like basic things like that. I never thought about. I was just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I wanted to do. This is the ideal. This is the ideal life for someone my age. So like, why would I even think about anything else?
Like, why would I question the current state? I have those thoughts too. I think there's like so many components of an environment that contribute to like wanting to be there. I think one is definitely space, like not only within your walls, the amount of space that you have, but also the space outside. Obviously, we're in a congested environment where there's millions of people in a really small confined space. And for some, the dream, like that's like what drives you, seeing people do their thing early in the morning to very late at night. And it's like inspiring because you can find inspiration in so many different people and so many different types of people here, which I think is great, especially when you're starting to learn more about yourself and grow into the person you want to be. I truly feel like that environment is something I needed to grow into myself. And to really like give my passions a shot, obviously the podcast being one of them, but also in terms of meeting people, making connections, being more open and like vulnerable to not just my inner circle, but further out. This city has taught me the power of that and how you can truly make relationships in so many different ways. But at the same time, I feel like that is a very me thing. And that, yes, I probably do share that in common with majority of the people in New York City. But I do feel like that is, you know, one type of personality. And there are other types of personalities that would thrive in a more spacious living environment, maybe a less loud city, maybe a less dirty city, like maybe a city where you can have a car if that means more to you. And I feel like all of those components are things I only understood once I got to New York because it felt correct. Whereas when I was in Ohio, I was missing so many of those things. I didn't feel like the rush when I was on the streets of Cincinnati. No offense. It's a very different environment also because you see a lot more youth and like a lot more hustle here with a much broader age range. Whereas in smaller cities like Cincinnati or even like our hometowns and stuff, it's like more of like a slower pace and like people enjoy that there, which is like a great. If you like it, I love it. But I really do think those aspects can only be figured out by trial and error. You cannot just like roll into a city and be like, this is my city. Like, I'm going to go to this city. I'm never going to move. Like, you will never know that until you really, truly go there and stay there. And there's been aspects of the city that will spit you out in a minute, that it's like, things don't need to be that hard. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? A train that's not running and like things like that, like can really impact you. But like, for me, I feel like it adds to my hustle, you know?
Yeah.
But it's interesting how all those factors are such a sliding scale and different people could want different levels of all of those elements. And it really contributes to your overall life satisfaction.
Yeah. I think something that's really prevalent right now, at least for me, especially like a city life, and New York is probably the biggest example of this, it becomes your identity.
It really does.
Your environment becomes you. You are so prideful of that identity.
Course,
I mean, like, that's such a like important part of community. Like, that's like an important part of sports. It's like, I'm so passionate of this team because I grew up in this area. Like, that is my shit. Like, people are truly like ride or die for this stuff, especially in New York. I was the poster child for like being ride or die for the city.
I mean,
like,
honestly, you being ride or die is probably what brought me here. I'm like, okay, Bria loves it. Maybe I will too.
I was preaching it. I was literally preaching it to everyone I know. I'm like, this is the only place.
No pun intended.
I know, literally. I was like, I have been advocating for everyone to come here. I'm like, it's the best place on the planet, blah, blah, blah. Which a lot of that I still believe. But I think the point is like, then when you are building self-awareness and you're growing as a person, you're not going to stay in the same exact place that you were when you're 21. I am a drastically different person at 27 than I was at 21.
And I would hope so. I feel like that is a sign of true growth, and they don't want to continue those same habits and lifestyle that they had back then.
No, and like, I think it's just more like when an environment becomes such a big part of your identity. Pooja brought this up in our episode with her around like health and functional nutrition, but like, are you thriving or are you surviving?
Yeah.
And then at a certain point when you're like, could I be thriving? Like, what am I missing right now to like be living my very, very best life? And like, what am I curious about exploring? I think it just makes it really tough when you're a younger person and you're really looking to like have your identity tied down to something. And usually like it's been your family, it's been your college, it's been your job. And then when you get older, sometimes that becomes your city. And then kind of having to like dissociate from that, I think is a really actively hard thing that I'm going through right now. I think it's just more like questioning if New York is the place where I thrive at the current moment. Even just that question is like a really startling thing.
It's like, whoa, like that's all I've had thus far. So like, I need to reevaluate that. And then that like makes you question so many other things.
Yeah.
The high level stuff makes you really question deep down who you are.
Yeah.
Which I think like, it's crazy to think that your environment can have such an effect on you, but it really does. And I think the longer you're somewhere and like more and more you're falling in love with it, it becomes harder to like disassociate your desire to be in the city from everything else you've ever wanted.
Yeah.
And it's like, but why are these pictures not coming together?
Yeah.
Which is tough. But at the same time, I think it's real in that you can't have everything, you know? Like my dream would be to have a mansion in the middle of New York City. But is that possible? So I'm like, okay, how can you blend your visions together for like your future and your present? And I feel like that's truly a transitional stage. That's what I'm understanding, because like when we think into the next chapter of like what we're going into, for context, our lease is ending in April. Very fucking sad. It's depressing. We don't talk about it too much here. I do think it's a very pivotal moment because all of us have been living together for 3 years now. And for years before that, we've had roommates. Like we were either living together with people in college. This will be our first time moving out and living individually without the girls. The prospect of that is very scary because
it's really scary. Yeah.
We have this comfort in our home where our home is our friends that have become family. I feel like there's so many things that are beautiful and so many things that are so much harder being in this environment. And I think all of us have separately kind of accepted the idea that like, yes, we are going in different paths, and have taken the last year of this lease that we've had to come to terms. We still are coming to terms with it, to be very clear, and like try to figure out our next steps. And I feel like something that I've been thinking about the last couple of weeks is like 2 years ago when we were moving out of our West Village apartment, we were like incapacitated by the idea of this. Literally made all of us so sad, confused, like stressed. thinking about it. I feel like now that all of us have like slowly started coming to terms with it and like making moves towards figuring out those next steps, thinking about it, like visualizing things in our head, I feel like that just shows how much we've truly grown and how we are actually so ready for that next step. Sometimes you do need a bigger change to add something to your life. Sometimes you need to be pushed a little bit to have more variety in your life and to have more experiences that you would have never come across otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing that like we're at this point where we can envision living on our own and our relationships are going to evolve. And I want to believe they're going to evolve in like a really beautiful way because there's so much more effort involved that it's going to be inevitably harder to meet up. It's also going to make those moments so much more fun. And I think there's beauty in the day-to-day interactions we have. And we have like so many memories of that. But like now making beauty in the bigger interactions that we have is going to be so fun. And I'm trying to like keep that at the forefront. Change is fucking hard. And I think environmental change is the craziest. But you will see so much fruit from your labor in that regard and like making it what you want and like thinking about how you want to curate that within the walls of your space and then also outside the walls of your space is so freeing and gives you a level of independence that I feel like we haven't experienced yet.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I think our situation is very unique. I can't even explain like what our living situation is to people because it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's normal, but it feels abnormal. It is actually like living with your very best friends who are like your sisters. And the level of comfort we have with each other is just bizarre. That's why I'm like, I could not live with 4 roommates happily for 3 years in any other scenario. This was literally the only permutation and combination that this was going to work.
Yeah.
And we got to live it. And it was living our dream. That's what makes it so emotional to part from because it's like, kind of like we struck lightning and we got used to it, took it for granted, I think, for a little while.
No, there's definitely moments, I think, in the bigger picture of the 3 years where, like, obviously everyone's so, like, in their own lives that it's like, you don't pay attention.
You're not appreciative of, like, what's happening. Yeah. I remember I felt like a few magical moments, like one when we moved back post the pandemic into our West Village place. Like, that was, like, an electric feeling because I was like, whoa, I am living with my best friends post a pandemic where we were so removed from everything we knew and loved.
That was really like euphoria.
It was
in a different
euphoria.
Way.
I feel like we felt similarly when we moved to Tribeca too, because we're like, we somehow did it again. Like we found another place that like worked for us. These years that we've had together, like the environment that we have curated both within like New York City and within our home is something that I think has really shaped the people that we are.
Oh, yeah. I feel like we've grown so much in a positive way from each other's influences.
Yeah, like we've all taught each other different things. The impact of that we will only see as we leave. I think this is like the perfect time to change your environment because like everyone's craving that change, but like it's still such a like positive, loving way we get to like leave and like be really just like so happy that we got to like live what we just did live for the past 3 years. Something that I was reading about because this process is really painful. And I think right now we're like, we have come to terms with it. But like 2 weeks ago, I was like sobbing. Like
but also if we had to record this like 3 months ago, we would be lost.
Catch me in April. Actually, don't catch me in April. Like, literally, don't talk to me in April.
Oh my God. Bria, remember our episode that we filmed because the apartment was
yeah.
2 years ago. Like, it was literally the most dramatic episode. I want to burn that episode if we could. But it was so interesting because we recorded that and we were like so real about like how painful it was. We were so naive then, you know, like we had so much growing to do. And like, we truly weren't ready back then. No. And I think about it and I'm like, the conversations we have now are just so much more positive around it. Generally, I think this environment of New York, it has helped us grow our careers. It has helped us grow this podcast, helped us like think less about what other people think. I think that was probably my biggest like thing coming into the city. I was like, I do care a lot about what other people think. And I can confidently say now, I really don't care what other people think. I truly have found a sense of freedom here emotionally and like publicly that I'm like, wow, I'm so proud that because I don't think I could have found that doing anything else. It's also the freedom of like not caring what other people are doing and like embracing doing your own thing. I suggest everyone find an environment that makes you feel like that. Like it is worth the like trials and tribulations of going through a couple bad places before finding the one. And the one can be the one for 1 year, a couple years, 6 months, even whatever you need at the time. Yeah. I think now, after having this positive experience, I know what to look for in a space physically on the inside and on the outside that I need for my next one. And as long as that feeling continues and you feel a sense of motivation and inspiration from both the insides and the outsides, I think that is when you know you're truly thriving.
Yeah. And I also think that like, that's the part when, as we get into like growing out of your environment, that's really important, because what I've learned through this process is like New York was the perfect place for me to grow. I feel truly like so empowered now. The thought of going somewhere else doesn't scare me from a logistical standpoint. To go anywhere else. I feel capable that I could go somewhere, figure out the public transit, figure out the maps, figure out the places to eat, figure out like cool activities to do, take classes. I'm not worried about any of those things because of getting to experience the city with my friends, getting to experience the city alone also. That is an invaluable lesson that I got to like learn these past few years. But I think something that is really prevalent while you're like transitioning and growing out of an environment is having the awareness to know when your comfort is working against you. As I'm kind of evaluating this for myself, like I see this in other people's lives where I'm like, comfort is one of the biggest things that can hold you back as a person. It's like a silent killer of like everything. You know what I mean? Like it can tie you down to a place, tie you down to a relationship, tie you down to a career that you are not thriving in. The fear of an unknown is scarier than the fear of what you're currently in. The faster you're able to realize that you're in that cycle and that you do have a hunch that you want to do something else, be somewhere else, curate a different environment, whatever that may mean for you, the faster you're going to let yourself win. I have to believe that. And I think I've been very comfortable for like at least the past 2 years. I can say that I've been extremely comfortable. Like there hasn't been a ton of change, and I actually haven't been in a place where I've like shaken things up drastically in a long time. I have to like remind myself constantly as I'm like thinking about shaking a lot of things up. And that like I did that when we went to college. I did that during our internships, did that when I moved to this city. And those were times where I felt probably the most energetic than I've ever felt. I truly think that I had like so much more zest in me to be like, okay, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm making friends. I'm doing all that.
God,
your entire aura changes when you kind of have to go into like fight or flight mode almost. Mind you, like I like to be comfortable and I like my routine. I want to be grounded. There's a phase in life for both. And I think that changes a lot, like throughout your life. Like, I don't think you just get to a point where you're like, okay, this is it. I'm nesting forever now. Like, I don't think that that's the only path. Like, there are ways you can like change your environment, both from a getting new furniture standpoint and like moving to a new place standpoint that really can like change your vibrations and make your life the life that you really are dreaming of deep down, you know?
There's a lot of things to say about how hard it is to do that. You have to build a life for yourself again. Something that I'm also coping with is the prospect of not being near your closest friends. But something that gives me some calm and some peace is that we're able to keep our close friendships even when like we go home or like we're on vacation for a long period. Like Avanti's in Atlanta and we're still able to like keep such a great relationship. And I think like that speaks volumes onto like how the future will look. And I also think about it from like my parents' standpoint. Like my mom has a lot of friends. My parents have a lot of friends that don't live near us, but like they still keep in touch with them so closely. And they're still some of the closest people to us, even though we're not like nowhere near driving distance away. And I think that is just so empowering to see that you can maintain relationships. It just has to look different. And while we're growing up and growing into ourselves, it's really important to put yourself out there and build connections in different places. And I think something I was thinking about is that it's really on ourselves to have a mindset where we're always open to connection. I think it's like very easy to get closed off, especially post-college, where you're like with the same people constantly and time again. You're put in the same scenarios. You have the same interests. You're part of the same clubs. You live together. All of that, the vicinity makes it so easy to become so close to people. But like when you are in these new places, because you have to put in so much more effort, people can become a lot more closed off and they're like, I'm happy with what I have. I feel like when we came to New York, for the first couple of years, I was like, yeah, I'm happy with hanging out with my 5 closest friends here, and I don't really need to hang out with anyone else.
Yeah.
But I realized the value of like making the effort with a variety of different people and like keeping connections alive and the true value of networking. There has been time and time again where I've seen in my friends' relationships and my personal relationships where I'm like, wow, who knew these connections would come back around like this? And it's so beautiful how like if you lean into it, the universe really has your back and like will show you more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Avanti really inspired me here because she is going on friend dates, and it takes so much courage to do those kinds of things and like have conversations with different people, but like ultimately what could go wrong?
No, literally. I think the biggest thing is just being willing to be vulnerable. Like that's like actually like the thing that will give you the most fruitful results in your life. And like so much of holding yourself back is just not wanting to like take a risk of like looking stupid, being rejected. It's literally like fear of rejection. That's like
in most aspects of life, that's what we fear.
That's what we fear, and we don't want to like put ourselves out there, and that's what keeps people in a situation that's comfortable for them because they're like, oh, like I know these people.
Not the best, you know? Like, keeps them in a mid situation.
I also think the big part about growing out of an environment is really having clarity on the priorities in your life. And that is hard, especially when the priorities of your life diverge with the priorities of your friends. I think that's like the biggest thing that requires a change in your environment, because it's like, what do you care the most about? Is it the space? Is it your job? Is it your relationships? Is it your friends? Based off like what's taking that top spot, that's how you have to curate the environment that's most suitable for you at that period of time. That's the biggest thing that we're learning in our late 20s is that this is the time where actually people's priorities are really different. We've all kind of had similar priorities up until this point, and now it's like, no, I'm prioritizing my relationship. Whereas like other people are like, I'm prioritizing my career, my mental and physical well-being. Like I think that's like a huge thing that people put on the back burner until later in life, and then you're like, oh, I now need to overhaul my entire environment because I'm having a midlife crisis because I haven't prioritized this for that long. You know, like something I've been learning is like you can have a lot of the same shared values as your friends and like humor and like, you know, I don't know, like you and me are the perfect example. We are so aligned in so many aspects of our life in terms of the things that we care about, the things that we enjoy, but currently, the priorities in our life are different. That is just a very weird experience. Sometimes you're like, does that mean our friendship's different? Or does that mean like we are like growing apart?
Growing in different ways.
Growing in different directions. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. I think it's really just your priorities are different. Like it is what it is. We currently require different things in our environment. At this stage in life. And like we could come back and we could go back, and it's like I think it's just more of a flow, but this is kind of one of the first times
that we've like, oh my god, this is like the beginning of where the divergence is gonna keep
flow be happening. Okay, well I think we can move into currently what are the types of environments that we're looking for that will make us thrive.
Okay, let's get into it. Okay. A window. So for context, we live in a 1-bedroom den where we have flexed 2 rooms and we have total 4 rooms, including the den. So 2 of us don't have windows, me and Ushi, and then 2 of us don't have closets, me and Priya. I'm the one that's in the beautiful center where I don't have it.
She's in the beginning of the Venn diagram.
Yes. So that has been all fine and dandy for the last
2 years,
20 months. Okay. The beginning of 2024, I think I've reached my limit on lack of sunlight.
Makes sense.
And I truly need to understand what time of day it is apart from my phone. I also need more space. I can't be staring at my clothes all day. I need like physical storage. And I truly feel like I have outgrown my current bedroom. And those are probably like the biggest things. But at the same time, I do want the hustle and bustle and like the accessibility to the city. My work is here. Get groceries easy. I do want like a slower lifestyle in some regards, but I still want access to the faster one whenever I want it.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. the biggest thing that I'm craving right now is like I want to like actually get fresh air. I just like see like vast nature and air around me in like my dream vision. I have the window in my room, but like I think I just need to be able to step outside more easily, which I mean it's not that hard, but it's like I don't want to go down a freaking elevator right now. Like I just want to be able to maybe have a balcony. That could be insane. Yeah, if I could drink my coffee outside, that could maybe like change my life.
Backyard even.
Like whoa. That's like so bizarre to me. But I just want more accessibility to like the outdoors. And I think especially in the winter, I've been an East Coast gal my whole life, always experienced the winters. And this winter, I am like, what would it be like if I wasn't experiencing winter?
What would one season a year feel like?
What could that feel like? I've been really anti, guys. Like, I'm like a East Coast diehard gal. I'm like always like, we need seasons. Like, I would always say that. When I was younger, I would say winter was my favorite season because I wanted to be like different. Like, I don't crazy. Know. And now I'm like, wait, I just low-key wanted to be like 60 degrees. Like
spring all year.
Like today, it's like February and it was 60 or like 58 degrees outside in New York. And I walked around and I was like, wow. Like, haven't done this in a long time. And like, this feels euphoric. I would like to see how my mind and body adjust to that type of environment. I need a closet. I need one. If there is one thing I need in 2024, it's a closet because I don't think I realized the amount of mental toll it takes on me to open my eyes first thing in the morning and just see all my belongings staring at me.
I know. It's so hard to be a clean girl when you don't have space.
No, like, we will spend hours, like, cleaning our room, like, top to bottom. And then you sit down and you look around and you're like, there's still shit everywhere.
There's still shit everywhere. It's like, is it a little bit more organized? Maybe.
It's organized. It's like clutter.
But it's still like, I see 1,500 colors around me. Like, I'm like, there's so many objects on my dresser. Yeah. I see like all seasons of clothes in front of me. I'm like finding a hiding spot under the bed, behind my mirror. Like I'm like finding nooks and crannies to like put things and like ways to cover up other small things. Because I'm like, I can't stare at this.
No, I know. It's actually like your visual field. I didn't realize the impact it would have. And not that I'm going to keep my closet clean. I probably won't, okay? It will probably be a mess in there, but at least I could close a door. Like, I just need a
boundary. Yeah.
I just need a boundary to not see the chaos of it.
Or, like, have all your suitcases shoved under your... That, like, makes me so mad. I'm like, if I could have a little bit of a closet to store my luggage, that could be the most luxurious thing. Like, the way I have to live out of my suitcase and, like, see it on the ground until I unpack it ruins me. To be clean, you need things to be clean with. Like, I feel like I don't have space for organizational items even. I'm like, I don't even want to build clutter because it's more clutter I have to move.
Yeah.
And it's bad feng shui.
No, it is. It's bad feng shui and the vibes are off, okay? Like, I'm literally sick of my room. I'm sick of just, like, seeing things everywhere. And the other thing I need is a bathroom.
I need a
party of one. I need a bathroom party of one.
You guys, the way we have an entire perimeter, like in every nook and cranny, wherever you could put an object, there is an object.
The amount of products in our bathroom.
Crazy. And it's like, there's 3 girls using this and Pete sometimes. Yeah. So it's like, there are 3 girls and all there's our stuff in there. It's like, we have multiple shampoos, we have deep conditioners, we have razors, we have the face washes, we have body wash, we have a million fucking objects in there. And actually, every time you open the curtain, 4 things fall. And it's like,
4 things fall.
Why do we need to live? It's also, I think I need laundry in unit. I need that. Like, I thought about it. We went to Cho's and oh my God, she was just like, I'm just going to throw in a load. And I'm like,
it's like the
what do you mean? Concept. Like, it's so crazy. It's like, actually we are shoving like our bedding with our like towels, with our like jackets. And we're like, how much can we fit in this $10 load of laundry?
Yeah.
I cannot fathom doing a small cute load.
No.
And then it's like, we have actually our entire closet that we have to put back into by the time we do laundry, because we're doing like 3 loads at once. And I'm like, I cannot live like this. I need to be able to like hit a laundry load like after every vacation immediately. Like, not have to like cry if I forget my laundry and I'm like worried someone's gonna move it for me.
No, I know. It's those types of things that really knock a few pieces of your soul
It just
like every week, and you're like, ugh.
It makes like having good habits hard.
No,
Like
yeah.
I was truly thinking about it. I was like, why can't I withstand a routine in terms of like switching your sheets out, switching your clothes out every season? Like, why is it hard for me? And it's literally because it's difficult to get those things done. As I grow up, I'm like, this is so worth putting the extra thought into where you're going to live to look for those things that'll actually make your life easier. Even if it's like $50, $100 more in rent, I'll probably be exponentially happier if I have 1.5 bathroom, my own closet, and unit washer dryer. That'll probably change my entire vibe.
100%. I realize now, because we never had thought about how our environment would affect our habits. It's even just like the little things, like, can I take a walk? I think that could really like make a massive benefit on my physical health. Being clean, eating good, like that's a huge thing. Like I want a kitchen that I can like cook in.
Yeah.
Because I do enjoy cooking and I feel the best when I make my food at home. But the friction to like cook in this apartment, even though we have a decent kitchen, but it's like,
we have a decent kitchen, but it's also like finding your things in the fridge. Like what do we have? What do we not have?
It gives me anxiety to open our fridge. Like I look in there and I just close it.
I truly feel like so many things in life kind of, this sounds dramatic, but I'm like, having a clean environment can fully change your way of living.
Yeah.
Because I think it could implement so much good change and like really put people in great routines. And I really want to work on building like a sustainable routine this year out of all years, because there is so much going on. There's a lot of travel happening. I'm wedding planning, like lots of movement happening. I need to have a conducive environment that can let me switch from one thing to the next thing seamlessly. And like right now, there's so much friction to move throughout everything I want to do.
I completely get that. Something that is really interesting when you're evaluating what environment works good for you that we don't see a lot of examples of is being okay to like try things out. I don't know. Like it feels against my nature to do that. You know what I mean? It feels very wrong. It feels like you're wasting time. I think that's the biggest thing. Like something that's been really like ingrained in me at least, and I think it's like prevalent in the South Asian communities, like get yourself grounded and ready to go, like
and
build
stable.
Like stability is so important. Anything that's like at a cost to your stability feels wasteful. Whatever you're gaining from that should not be prioritized, because like what's most important is to be stable and to like have a life that's like calm. And my life's probably going to be unstable for like the next few months. That it's such a hard concept for me to wrap my mind around. And I don't think I will wrap my mind around it until it's happening, because I've never experienced that. I also think
it's hard to make the steps towards that, because you're like, I'm scared. I like don't necessarily want to touch that. But it's like to do anything or to experience anything new, you kind of have to in some regard, like whether that's big or small. And I think like taking that leap is like the hardest thing to do. But something that could be extremely beneficial in the end.
I mean, I think some people can like live a nomadic lifestyle and like have just like this fun, free floaty environment. I'm aware enough that I don't think that's me, but I do think that I'll never truly know. Like I'm at a point where I'd like to really question the type of environment that would let me thrive, and like how am I going to know that if I don't try different environments? Like I think controlled chaos could be really beneficial to people. If I spend, a few months just figuring out like what type of environment does really suit me, then I figured it out.
You know how you always hear like it's great if you find like what you like, but it's also really great if you find out what you don't like.
Yeah.
And I really think this process, like you love New York and it'll always have a special place in your heart and it'll always feed something in you that's different from any other city. You know that. But giving yourself the opportunity to figure out what else could make you feel like that could only add. Once you try it, you'll know what you need there, what's missing there to build your long-term community and life and like actually figure out where you want to be if you want to settle ever, I think that's extremely valuable and something 99% of us in this community do not do. We stick to what's close to us. We stick to where our friends are. But even if we have that itch, I feel like only now are people like starting to scratch that itch in whatever capacity. But like even prior, like I don't think many of us even like considered some possibilities because we thought they were too crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like, why can't I live in London? Why can't I spend 6 months in Spain? Why not?
Yeah.
I think it sounds so far-fetched, but it's like you can find community wherever you want. And it's like about trying a bunch of different things and figuring, you can love a bunch of different places too. I also think that's something that like needs to be more normalized. Like you can love Miami and then also love New York. You can love LA and then also love Nebraska.
Yeah, I know. I think that that's a really hard thing to wrap your mind around because of that whole like identity piece where you're like, I need to be this type of person. Like I'm a New York person or I'm an SF person, whatever. Maybe you're one in one season of your life and another in another. Like it's just really about like being able to at least get to the point where you can make that decision for yourself. And like, again, I think it comes back to your priorities on like right now, my priority is to learn more about myself and like the type of environment that would let me thrive. So like that's what I have to do. And I'm sure that priority will change like later in my life, you know?
Yeah. Ooh, we covered it.
We did.
Do you guys think we covered it?
Hopefully.
We've been talking, yapping for an hour. Yeah, those were our thoughts on our environment. I feel like we just brain dumped so much too because we're going through such like a period of change, but hopefully our brain dump has helped at least one of you and has made you feel like you're not going crazy if you feel anything like we do.
Yeah. And if you have any advice or
if you want to talk to us about it, boy, do we have ears?
We have big ears for that. To listen.
For that. We love you guys, and we're here to embrace the roller coaster that is life with you guys. Catch you next time. Later, experts.